John, let's talk about the debt, because several years ago when I ran for city council, one of the biggest concerns we had was the future debt that's piling up. And if you add light rail, the cars, all the other stuff that we're talking about here, it's just going to compound the debt problem that we see that on the city's website shows us that we are facing a tremendous amount of debt in the next 10 or 15 years that, it's just going to be a mountain out there. Talk about that and contrast it with the money that we're going to spend on light rail.
Well, you posed a very good question that most people wouldn't normally think about. Is Virginia Beach actually in 2000 was a wealthier community than it is today? When you adjust for inflation and look at median income and all these things, we are by far not as wealthy as we were in 2000. And interestingly enough, when the council came into a competition between the debt policy that we did have, the per capita debt, and it didn't fit their needs, I didn't vote for it, but we increased the amount of money we could borrow per capita, even though as a city we were less wealthy. People had less capacity to pay, yet they increased the debt service because they have all these private partnerships they want to do. They want to do light rail, they want to do the dome side, all the things that they want to do, debt that counts. And that a lot of all this borrowing, none of it is for a big road building program, I mind you. So then what happened is, so now they're going to go out and borrow without referendum. We use the development authority to circumvent the charter so they can borrow money without asking you. So we really are taking on debt. Now we're lucky at the current mode is we're paying very little for debt. And that might sound, oh good, the interest rate's only 2.4%. But wait a minute, that's not so important as the people who are paying it, all the retirees got 0% pay raise. So if you're growing your debt service faster than people's incomes, that only means one thing, ultimately higher taxes. Because they got to pay, the debt service gets paid first, and they're going to tell you, oh, I got to pay my cops competitive wages, I got to pay my firefighters, I got to pay my teachers. Now we got to raise taxes because we didn't keep our debt servicing costs under control. We are borrowing money for some wrong things, like building that new city hall when we probably could get by with not doing that as the highest priority. We could build less expensive schools. They don't all have to be architectural award-winning facilities. I never saw a curve that made a kid smarter. So those things cost money. They add 15% to your cost. So there's some things we can do to tamper down and use the debt that we do issue for the things that really matter most. And so we ought to be lowering our borrowing. Of course, the mayor says because rates are so cheap we should be borrowing even more, but he's not taking into account that everybody wasn't a former banker, that all the people are out there getting no to little pay raises, their health care insurance is outstripping any pay raise they do get, and that how many families are suffering. Median family income in the beach is tough to live here. And I think we need to make sure that the beach is affordable for everyone. And the city's spending is going up faster than people's real income. That is not sustainable. So the spending problems aren't just in Washington. The spending problems are right down there. And every time we have one of these retreats, it's just a big list of things to spend money on. No one ever talks about where's our initiatives to shift our cost curve to the left, or let's freeze the budget for 2 or 3 years and give the families and small businesses some breathing space to catch their breath. So I know they talk about all the awards that they win, but you know what? There isn't a family I know of that can pay their house payment or pay their homeowners association fee or pay their kids their food for their family and use that award to pay for it. And those awards are meaningless. The only metric that really counts, in my opinion, is the city council either helping or not hurting the ability of real households to increase their incomes and their disposable incomes to improve their prosperity. It isn't the balance sheet of the city that is the best metric of the city's health. It's the balance sheet of all the families and small businesses that make the city. Government is not an entity unto itself. It is a servant of the people, and it shouldn't be preying upon the wealth and the income of folks. And that's what we have today, government growing at the expense of the personal living standards of families, and it's just, in my opinion, unacceptable. But ultimately, it's the voters in November of 2016 which will get to decide business as usual or get a new set of leaders that are focused on their priorities and not the priorities of special interests.